you all for coming. Thank you for your patience. We're going to have a few speakers here today. We're going to hear from Mayor Keller. We're going to hear from APD Police Chief Harold Medina, Parks and Recreation Director Dave Simon, and Department of Arts and Culture Director Shel Sanchez. At this time, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mayor Keller.
All right, well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to our beautiful Balloon Fiesta Park and of course our Balloon Fiesta Museum. And we have a little bit of a sort of roundtable for folks. We're going to provide updates from various departments and also our IABF, the International Balloon Fiesta organization, which actually operates the Balloon Fiesta. So there's a lot to cover. I don't think there's any particular sort of new showcase news, but I want to give you a heads up. We like to have a little fun at this time of year. I mean, it is Balloon Fiesta, so even with our friends in the media, we're going to do the same. We're going to offer you a tour to check out the stadium site, so we'll walk you through that. We're also going to take you up to a parking area that is now sort of ready for prime time, if you will, for Balloon Fiesta. That's going to help some of our parking needs. But we'll touch on all sorts of issues. And so why don't we begin with, I think, just in general, look, it's almost Balloon Fiesta time. Our city is ready. We've done this now for 51 years, and each year it gets a little bit better. We also know it's part of that One Albuquerque effort. There is everyone involved in this, from our street crews to the restaurants to our chambers of commerce to Visit Albuquerque. I mean, literally, it takes a community to put this on. As a reminder, it is literally bigger than the Super Bowl. Anyone who does event planning will tell you this is the equivalent of 9 Super Bowls. And so, 9 days, right? Did I get that right? Okay, so make no mistake, even though we take it for granted because we love it and we live here, it should never be taken for granted. This is a special, special event internationally, and we're grateful to have it here right in the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we're going to continue to aim high when it comes to seeing those balloons up in the sky. And let's begin with a round of updates. And we're going to start with public safety. And I'm just going to highlight a few aspects of this. We continue to reconfigure how we work with our partners at Bernalillo County, also at State Police, but primarily this is Albuquerque Police Department who does the public safety, but it's also supplemented by the public safety efforts from the Balloon Fiesta themselves, who do an awful lot of work on this each year. Now, we have the full emergency management system array that we always have. This is something that is such a big deal. Literally, there are individuals from things like the Super Bowl and the Kentucky Derby every year who come watch what we do at Balloon Fiesta. Now, that doesn't mean it's not without its challenges. And so one thing I will preview this year, we are going to be utilizing, hopefully we won't have to, but if we need to, our radial alert system. This is a way to alert people within a radius of the Balloon Fiesta of any issues that might be occurring, as opposed to alerting the entire county or the entire state. So, and even if it's traffic related, so we can basically do it a mile around the Balloon Fiesta and so forth. So that is a new program that will now be available in use should we need it for public notification. And that's the text messaging system that the Emergency Management Office puts out if we need it. So with more on this and other public safety efforts, our Chief of Police, Harold Medina. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank everybody for being here today, and I want to give a big thank you to all the first responders who are going to be working this next week. This event does task us to its limits year in and year out. I remember as the commander of our tactical section, the years that I spent 9 days, twice a day except for the last day, basically at Balloon Fiesta Park with all the officers who started working at 4 in the morning, getting horses ready till late at night till the last individual left. So we are going to be providing service in 3 key areas. There will be security on the field. There will be traffic posts helping people get in and out of Balloon Fiesta Park as seamless as possible. And the last part that we always work is we work to ensure that we have property crimes detectives and we have individuals out in the community safeguarding a lot of the places that our visitors are going to be spending time at to prevent theft and crime. Of course, there without a doubt will always be theft and crime occurring, but we've historically seen really low numbers during the Balloon Fiesta Park. We started it off last week, as we have every year since I've been chief, with the big, huge warrant roundup, 140 40 people were arrested, and hopefully they're still at the detention center. And we will continue to keep resources out there to keep citizens safe, not only at Balloon Fiesta Park, but also as they're visiting the city of Albuquerque. But with more details of our interactions at the Balloon Fiesta Park with traffic and field safety, Deputy Chief Smathers will cover that. Thank you. And a big thank you to the Office of Superintendent of Insurance, who's trying to hide back here, but they help us every year with GPS monitors that we put on the balloons that are visiting the city in the event one is taken, so we could track it down. So thank you.
Good afternoon, and thanks to all of you for coming. As the mayor and the chief noted, this is a large event for us. We do consider it our Super Bowl. It is the equivalent of 14 NFL games back-to-back, just for some size and perspective for the men and women that do work it. We have spent a lot of time from last year to this year refining our processes. The mayor made note of that. So we're very comfortable that we have a refined communication plan in place should the need arise to share public safety information. So we're comfortable that we have refined that process there. There'll be GPS trackers that I know that AIBF and the Office of Insurance are using for the balloons. We also have our Special Investigation Division that'll be out in the community, as the chief noted, in an undercover and in a highly visible posture to ensure that everybody that's coming to visit and recreate and go to restaurants and stay at hotels will be safe and not a victim of crime. I would like to stress and ask, firearms are not allowed on the field or anywhere inside this venue. So if you're coming to participate in the Balloon Fiesta, you need to leave those weapons at home. We don't want you to leave them in the car. That is oftentimes a source of firearms that go into our city. So please be mindful of that. If you're bringing children to the event, we'd always encourage you to stop by the New Mexico State Police Tag a Tot tent. It's right there. It's highly visible in the front of the venue, and ask that you just enroll in that process. We always do lose, or children are often separated from their guardians, and this is an excellent way to have a quick reunification to eliminate that worry. And also, we're going to have a large presence, as always, on the field. So if you have a concern, no matter what it is, please just reach out to an officer that you'll see. We have a highly visible foot presence there, and we'd ask you to make contact with us. We have worked closely with all of our partners. The list is too long, but there is not a public safety agency in this state that doesn't touch this event, and we work closely with them. So I also want to offer my thanks to you, and I want to welcome everybody for this year's 51st. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate that, Chief. And when Deputy Chief Smathers mentions how big it is, he used to actually be in charge of security for the Carolina Panthers, right? Back in his, you hear the accent, right? That's where it comes from. So he can validate just how big a deal this is for sure. Now, of course, the facility itself happens to be, it's a city-owned facility. We talk about different changes and quality of life investments that we're doing in the future. But this is a moment I just want to acknowledge. Look, city administrations in the past, all almost under that have been part of Lawrence Rael's work. How many Balloon Fiestas did you move, Lawrence? 2, 3? He's got at least 3 locations under his belt. But as a reminder, right, the city bought this. That's essentially why we're here. We bought the land, and then with a bunch of partnership, all of this has come into play, over a decade ago. But of course, history aficionados remember it started at the mall and then it moved and so forth. But this facility is run by our Parks and Rec department year round, and that's who's in charge of maintenance and so forth. So they're going to talk about some of their improvements in the facilities, and I think we'll save some of the stadium details for on-site. So non-stadium issues, our Director of Parks and Rec, Dave Simon.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome to everyone. Being here on the backyard of the Anderson Abruzzo, International Balloon Museum is such a special site. And this view, of course, is, it's beloved to New Mexicans, but it is known around the world. And as you can see, the Balloon Park, which is the city's largest city park, is looking gorgeous in anticipation of the 51st Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Now, the work that goes on here at the park is year-round work, and we're very proud and respectful of our partnership with the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, where our teams work side by side, virtually year-round, to continue to improve the park and make sure that when visitors come back every year, they see a park that is better, better kept, better improved, providing a better Balloon Fiesta experience than the previous year. And that has certainly been the case with our partnership with AIBF this year. We continue to come out of the 50th Fiesta and work hard to make the 51st Fiesta the best Fiesta ever. I want to thank all of the hardworking staff at the Balloon Fiesta and at the Parks and Recreation Department and many other city departments who really make all that possible. Now, among the many improvements that we have made over the last 12 months at Fiesta, they start sort of at the north end of the field this year, where we have done a drainage improvement project that in the event there is some inclement weather, we will be much better prepared to handle the runoff from a rain event, for example, which from time to time we would see some water collecting on the field, and particular parts of the field have been a little prone to some pooling. But we've just completed a new drain project on the very north end of the field that should prevent that from happening in a very important place on the park. Also, as Mayor mentioned, we have taken ownership, improved, graded, and surfaced a brand new parking lot in the northeast corner of the park, which has a large capacity for vehicles. In fact, it'll add about 750 spaces here to the Balloon Fiesta parking network. We have also done some improved paving, pothole filling, and general surface improvements along Vendors Row. That's of benefit, of course, to make the pedestrian visitor experience as safe as possible along Vendors Row and eliminate some uneven surfaces there. We've also done some electrical improvements this year on Vendors Row. We're gradually installing higher graded, higher capacity electrical pedestals along Vendors Row for the vendors, which means, and this is very important, this means that the coffee at this year's Fiesta will be hot and the burritos will be hotter. And that's all part of making sure the electrical system along Vendors Row is up to snuff. And we look forward to more of those improvements down the road. We've installed some new lights on one of the busiest pedestrian entrances here at the park. It's gate 23, kind of off to the behind my right shoulder. And we've improved the pedestrian queuing area near the park and ride drop-off and pickup spot at the field level. So we now have a larger area and more well-organized queuing area for the park and ride function at the field level. That should really assist in speed, emptying the buses and then loading the buses at the conclusion of a Fiesta session. The field, of course, looks beautiful, and we have spent some time resodding, nurturing, and growing this very important grass, which is the most beautiful 86 acres in the world when our pilots and their balloons arrive. So the turf is in good shape and waiting to be lit up with color this year. So we're ready to invite in the community and the visitors. And the last thing I just want to note is proud to show off this year's Parks and Recreation and City Balloon Fiesta pin, which proudly features, and this may be the only pin that has this year at Fiesta, but it proudly features the annular eclipse event, which we assume will happen on October 14th, unless, of course, something goes off in the heavenly circuit. But this is going to be quite a collector's item, I'm sure, for the 51st Fiesta. We're proud to represent this amazing natural event that's occurring at one of the most beautiful man-made events in the world. And if you'll just excuse me for saying it, I think the 51st International Balloon Fiesta is going to eclipse every other Fiesta. Thank you for being here.
So good. That Dave Simon. Awesome. Very good. Well, a couple of other small items. We're going to move on to arts and culture, but we've been just sort of gathering the latest data because it is kind of fresh and things. But the The Eclipse, we think, is already added 100,000 seats coming into the city. And so we can see that in like airfare in different ways. So it's like an extra balloon fiesta, essentially, in terms of number of people that are coming. So very exciting for our city. And of course, there's all sorts of partners that are putting on events. You know, it's perfectly timed so that the balloons will just be about done, and then we'll have an eclipse. So it's like an extra bonus show. And some other things I just want to remind folks with APD, want to make sure and thank Sandia Pueblo. We've been able to work out our landing arrangements there and also some parking arrangements with them. We also, of course, BCSO is part of that operation that Deputy Chief Smathers went over, as well as the state police. And in fun news, hot breaking news, Lottaburger is going to be road testing their new walking taco bag, which is like a Frito pie in a bag, at Balloon Fiesta. So with that, let's hand it over to Shell, our Director of Arts and Culture.
And we can attest that those are really good walking tacos, by the way. Just had it for lunch. Highly recommend. Okay, so I'm always happy to be here as the Director of Arts and Culture for a lot of reasons. But first of all, because ballooning and Balloon Fiesta are an integral part of our city's culture, and I don't think anybody would argue with that. So, and also we are today on the grounds of the Balloon Museum. So I just want to highlight some other things that are happening in conjunction with Balloon Fiesta. So alongside all the excitement we are going to have on the field behind us, we invite everyone to the Balloon Museum for new perspectives on the history, science, sport, and art of ballooning. So just a pro tip, if you go to Fiesta in the morning and you're dreading that traffic, just stop at the Balloon Museum. Hang out for a couple of hours, and by the time you visited all of our new exhibits, the traffic will have passed. So that's my advice. We'll be open here at Balloon Museum from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. During Fiesta, those are extended hours, plus we have a lot of special events on the evenings and weekdays. So on the eve of Balloon Fiesta, on Friday, October 6th, the Balloon Museum hosts the prestigious FIA Ballooning Commission International Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So if you're kind of a geek like a lot of us here when it comes to balloons and ballooning, these are pioneers, not just in the adventure of ballooning, but in the science and kind of sport of ballooning. So join us for that. We have new exhibits at the museum this year. Again, thanks to our amazing staff who just cannot stop themselves. So we've got a new photo exhibit from Bryce Risley, a new exhibit on Ed Yost, updated canopy of color, and Dirigible Dreams exhibit. We also this year for the first time have temporary public art installations that are just going to be up during Balloon Fiesta. So drawing inspiration from ballooning, the eclipse, astronomy, science, technology, artists were tasked with creating 4 captivating installations. So come and see those. One of them is Space Messengers, which is a very interactive project that has traveled all over the world and will be here at Balloon Fiesta the second weekend. We also have STEAM Night on October 12th with NOAA, NASA, and NSF to learn about the annular eclipse. And then you're supposed to come back on October 14th to experience the annular eclipse. We're really proud that we are partnering with NASA, with NOAA, and NSF here. They will have live activities and streaming. They'll be streaming the eclipse from Balloon Museum grounds internationally. So this is really the place to be at Balloon Fiesta Park and the Balloon Museum on October 14th. We have other fun events, Lift Your Spirits Craft Cocktail Festival with the New Mexico Distillers Guild. We are also hosting the command center for the Gordon Bennett gas balloon race. So that's happening again this year because, you know, collectively we didn't have enough going on. So also the Gordon Bennett race this year, and headquarters will be here at Balloon Museum for the whole time. And then I just want to remind you that Balloon Fiesta happens in the mornings and it happens at night. And if you have friends in town, which apparently we're going to have hundreds of thousands of friends in town, we have so many other things going on in the city. We have amazing museums. We have music all over the city. So also remember to take your friends to some of our other places, cool things for locals and visitors. Live music in Old Town every day from noon to 4 from October 6th through the 15th. We just opened a new O'Keefe and More exhibit at the Albuquerque Museum. This is a fabulous exhibit and a really big deal for the Albuquerque Museum. Albuquerque Biopark Zoo Asia exhibit opens on Thursday of this week, just in time for Balloon Fiesta, so a great thing to do with the kids in the afternoon. And as you know, there's other amazing museums and cultural facilities. So, you know, take the week off from work, take the kids out of school, come to Fiesta, go play, come back to Fiesta. That's my advice. Enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shel. We are also wonderfully grateful to have a public-private partnership that has been long-standing for decades. And of course, it's with the city and the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. And we're very grateful to be joined by their president. It takes a lot to run that organization. And so sometimes it takes a former Supreme Court justice. So let's welcome Judy Nakamura.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Okay, here's our official countdown clock. We are 3 days, 16 hours, 53 minutes, and 31 seconds from our very first mass ascension of 2023. And I want you to know, Balloon Fiesta is ready. Our field is ready. Final touches are going on. We have thousands of volunteers who are trained. They've been assigned their positions. Our pilots and crews are currently traveling in from all over the world to descend upon Albuquerque. The air is perfectly crisp, perfect for those morning balloon flights, and the weather's looking pretty darn good for the first weekend of Fiestas. So we welcome the hundreds of thousands of guests and more than 550 hot air and gas balloon pilots, crews from around the world who are descending upon Albuquerque, New Mexico, the hot air balloon capital of the world. So we have pilots and crews representing at least 15 countries, so we really are where the world comes to balloon. Balloon Fiesta, I don't know if y'all know this, but Balloon Fiesta is a 501c3. We're a not-for-profit organization. We're run by a volunteer board of directors. We have a pretty small staff. We have this straightforward mission, and in part that mission is to promote the sport of ballooning, promote the city of Albuquerque, and promote the state of New Mexico, both nationally and internationally. And the mission is really pretty straightforward if you think about it, but the complexity of organizing, the complexity of running an event of this scope is another matter. It's really challenging for us to put all the pieces together. So the Balloon Fiesta organization is really proud of what we do for the city, what we do for the state, but our success depends on the partnerships and collaboration with our government and with civic organizations. And I think you've heard today, witnessing very firsthand, the thorough overview of what's gone into making this event enjoyable and making this event safe. A key part of Balloon Fiesta's success are our pilots, our balloons, our volunteers, but much of that success depends on the efforts of others and certainly the city of Albuquerque. Mayor Lawrence, directors, chief, I want you to know how incredibly grateful we are to all of you. And I know Dave Simon is over here sporting that eclipse pin, but we've got a really cool one for sale down on the field, and I'll get one for you. So thank you to all of us for the effort you've put in to make this year's Balloon Fiesta an incredible success. Clearly, we can't do it without you. We encounter a lot of new challenges every year for Balloon Fiesta, and we've been working very closely with the mayor and the administration to navigate those changes, and we've made progress together. A lot of progress focusing on producing more pilot landing sites, strengthening all aspects of Balloon Fiesta. And this year, a really important addition that the city have introduced to the field is a LiDAR system. And what's important about this is it's a weather system that's going to be installed, as is installed on the field, that for the first time is going to be giving us ground winds up to 400 or 500 feet where our pilots are flying. So I want to thank you all for that. It adds an incredible safety feature to Fiesta for our pilots. So look, we've got a really exciting and fun Fiesta. If you're debating coming to Balloon Fiesta, debate no longer, because while our balloons are the star of the show, we have a spectacular drone show being sponsored by Sandia. This year, 500 drones versus last year's 300s. We have skydivers once again bringing in the New Mexico flag, sand sculptors, a new addition. And of course, the Gordon Bennett race is coming to the United States for only the 5th time in its history. And hydrogen gas balloons are going to be launching, we're hoping, the first Saturday night. It's weather dependent, winds dependent in the evening. And we have 18 hydrogen filled balloons taking off. And if you've not been there, it gives you goosebumps when the national anthem of every country's played as they're launching into the darkened sky. But certainly the most spectacular event's already been talked about. Mother Nature's giving us that event. That is the eclipse on October 14, and the eclipse commences right when we finish that morning launch. And the really cool part of the eclipse this year is we're going to have 72 balloons glowing at the height of the eclipse. And 72 because 1972 was the first year of Balloon Fiesta. And with NASA on hand, they've shipped to Balloon Fiesta already 80,000 balloon viewing glasses that we plan to pass out. So it's not too late to jump on Park and Ride, to ride your bike, walk, park early, because you do not want to miss an event that the world is coming to. So thank you to the city. Thank you for your work to ensure that Albuquerque is ready to host all of the visitors converging here and that our guests feel welcome in the state of New Mexico. Thank you.
All right, those gas balloons land in like Ottawa and Quebec, so I don't know if you want to ride on one of those, but it's very special to see. Also, by about the time they're landing, it's like the end of Fiesta, and you see how far they've gone. It's awesome. So let's see. I think we're going to transition here to our kind of drive around. I still moonlight on a chase crew, and so we're going to do our own little chase crew here around the Balloon Fiesta. But to mention some other items that sort of always come up, look, we encourage everyone to use Bike Valet. Bike Valet is back. You want to know, like, everyone loves their Balloon Fiesta pro tips. Ride your bike there is a huge pro tip. So that's a great way to do it. Of course, Park and Ride, there are still some seats available. So get Park and Ride if you need it. You can do that now. We also know that our turnaround for Park and Rides is going to operate similarly to what it did in the past, which hopefully will alleviate some issues that we had in our first years about 5 years ago. We also want to mention that we cannot control the weather. And is it an emergency alert? No, and we also, to a certain extent, can't always control traffic. So, look, that first day, if the weather's awesome, everyone's headed to Balloon Fiesta, everyone's pulling over to look at balloons, it's awesome. But we do ask for your patience and understanding that it actually is like this every year. And it's a credit to how amazing Balloon Fiesta is. Also, we're building an awesome new playground right there that, for those folks who come out to the Balloon Fiesta Museum, know is amazing. This is a great place to watch Fiesta, so go to the Balloon Fiesta website if you want to have that kind of experience here. I love this because it's fenced, so my kids cannot escape. And so I think parents of young kids particularly like watching from right here. Lastly, we'll go do a little drive around, but we want to talk about the future. So we're going to talk a little about parking. Lawrence will chime in at one of our stops, and we'll talk a little about the stadium. But also, look, at the end of the day, I think one thing has just become inevitable, and I said this 5 years ago, and I know nothing happened, and so I'm not expecting anything different now. But someday we've got to get the train stop here. That is really the sustainable way to deal with traffic and to deal with the increasing crowds and all of this. So, just throwing that out there. Someday, hopefully, we'll have a rail runner stop right over there. But in the meantime, we're going to show how we can get it done with the facilities we've got. So let's hit the road, and we'll take more questions kind of on the way and at the next site.